Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host. Thanks so much for joining us on the program today. We are really grateful that you are able to spend some time with us. It's always nice to know that people are listening on SoundCloud and iTunes, TuneIn Radio, where the podcasts are. We've got quite a number of listens. As a matter of fact, since January 1 of 2018, and that is over 3 years ago, we already have 33,000, fast approaching 34,000 listens. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm not sure what that means. All I know is that's what we've got. And then we have a whole presently 24 subscribers on YouTube where you can watch these interviews. And we also hope that you will go to our guest website. I will be giving that out in just a moment. And also a reminder, we are here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., streaming live at those times, as well as 9 a.m. on Wednesdays for the special edition of Tell Me Your Story. Hope that you will join us for all that. We also hope that you will take some time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within, spend time listening to that still small voice, finding that quiet, peaceful, calm space that helps you to sort of re-energize and rejuvenate so that you can get back into the swing of things, as it were. We hope that you will do that. And if these programs resonate with you, I hope they do, we want you to join us. We want you to join us financially if you can. That's why we have a PayPal and Patreon account for your security as well as ours. And we want you to do what you can to help us out in that regard with whatever amount you can muster. My guest today is Bandon Beachum, and he has a book out called The Golden Key, and we're going to talk about that. Bandon, thank you so much for joining us here on the program. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Pleasure to be here, Richard. Thank you.
The Golden Key reminds me of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and the Golden Ticket.
Yeah, I like that. That comparison doesn't hurt my feelings at all.
But here's the interesting kicker with that. And that is that instead of only a select number of golden tickets, everyone can have a golden key, right?
I would definitely agree with you. Indeed. It's one of those things where, basically in this book, whereas the golden ticket is there's a scarcity, I'm really saying, the subtitle of the book is Modern Alchemy to Unlock Infinite Abundance. There's infinite abundance at our disposal if we know how to align with it.
That is the kicker right there. And I will tell you that, and I'm not alone, and you have probably been here before, I say you have been here as well. And that is that just when I think I have figured out how to make all of that happen, something comes along and just pulls the rug out from underneath. Now, I guess I should jump in here with what role does, as I mentioned earlier about the decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, what role does our intuition play in this process?
I had someone on my podcast a few weeks ago. Positive Head is the name of it. Who was the guest? Shoot, I'm blanking on who said it, but it was really, really profound. I loved the perspective, and it was that intuition is actually the highest form of intelligence because it takes into account all of the all the different data points, all your experiences in this life, are factored in, and all of the information from, beyond what we can perceive is being factored in from your higher self or whatever, however you want to refer to it. And when you take those two things and synthesize them together, you get your intuition, which, as a result becomes the highest form of guidance that you can really utilize.
Well, I've struggled. I'm sure that I'm not alone. Others have struggled as we talk about this with this whole process. I mean, it's like, okay, I don't consider myself to be a greedy person, but I'm getting tired of my bank account going back down to zero every every few weeks. And then I build it
Mhm.
back up again with the paychecks and this and that and the other. And then it goes back down to zero a month later. And then we go back. And sometimes it goes below zero, which generates even more negativity in that respect. I've never fully, and maybe it's because since I've been doing these programs, I have not understood how financial institutions think that by penalizing you, what used to be maybe $15, it's now $30 every time you have a transaction that is puts you in the negative numbers. How that helps you.
Mm.
Now, it certainly helps them, and I understand those are the rules. I get that. Okay. But it's like, how is that helping?
Yeah. Well, I don't think their aim is to help you in that case, and their aim is to self-preserve. And they're seeing that you've done something out of bounds, and therefore there needs to be a penalty. And they only think in terms of dollars and cents. So if they're going to
Yeah.
penalize you, it's going to be monetarily related. So yeah, it's really an interesting dance, because it's one thing to understand all the stuff that's outlined in the book, and it's another thing, me included. I always say we teach best what we most need to learn. And
Yeah.
it is another thing entirely to really apply the perspectives. And you know monetary abundance is really just one form of abundance. I wouldn't even say it's the most important form of abundance.
Mhm.
Time, health, certainly arguments can be made that they're more important, because I'm sure there's a billionaire out there right now who's not in the best of health that would trade everything to have your level of health or my level of health. So it's it's one of those things where we put so much importance on it, but really it's all kind of funny money. It's monergy. And once you start playing with the idea that it can, we've seen it. I'm sure you've seen at some point, you mentioned your bank account going to zero or below zero. And I'm sure you've also seen, like, oh my goodness, I just had something really unexpected in a good way happen financially. Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so it can go all directions. And if we learn to become, the eye of the storm as all of these things play out, and we learn that okay, at the end of the day, I'm tapped into, it's all a part of me, and what's for me will be for me. And I can not react so much to the ups and downs of it all. And instead, I think is a Sufi saying that says the shortcut, something to the effect of, the shortcut to tapping into more abundance is being grateful for what you already have.
Mm.
And so, these are the things that start to help shift your perspective. And what's funny is, as you shift your perspective around these things, I mean, today's a great example. As we record this, if anyone who's involved with cryptocurrencies is definitely reeling today, they've just absolutely tanked in the last couple of days. And so, you can tell a story around that, like, that's really, really painful, or you can, sort of watch the ebbs and flows of reality do its thing, and know that no matter what comes, there really is no security. And at the end of the day, that's what we are. We are in, it's like Terrence McKenna's quote that I love. It's like, at the end of the day, you have to jump in the abyss, and what you find is it's a feather bed. It's you are infinitely supported, and you're meant to go through all kinds of ups and downs, and not being so attached to the ebbs and flows of it.
I know that as a young broadcaster working, I started out at a radio reading service for the blind and visually impaired, and I was working under what was then called work study, where you got
Mm-hmm.
paid
Mm-hmm.
to, as long as you were going to school and so forth, you got paid a certain amount. And usually it was a little more, sometimes more than minimum wage, but I think there was a set amount.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working for this radio station, and then I got the job at this Christian radio station. I figured a job is a job. What the heck?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, a lot of people that we would hire there at that Christian station, they would complain when it was time to clean the bathrooms. Now, we worked at the transmitter site, so we collectively had to keep the place clean because we were the only ones. We didn't have a cleaning service. And they would say, "Oh, you guys don't pay me enough to do that." I said, "Sorry about that, but the job description when we hired you was clean the toilets, because I do it." Well, one of the other aspects, of course, people complained about the rate of pay, how cheaply we were paid. And I started looking at that and thinking, okay, I could go down that road, feeling the same way, feeling like, you guys, I'm going to take this and I'm going to take that. There was a story on, I think it was CBS News, radio news back then. And Motorola was laying off like 1,000 people
Mm.
because they had just done an audit of materials in their warehouse, in their factory. And they were missing about $1 million in materials.
Wow.
And the only conclusion was people were pilfering.
Yeah.
And so they laid off 1,000 people. And odds are the 1,000 people they laid off had something to do with the pilfering. If they didn't pilfer, they knew the people who were. So they were sort of complicit. And so I thought, well, wait a minute. And I was given an opportunity to do interviews between 7 and 8 o'clock in the evening. So I would record them. I wasn't going to be there at 7 o'clock in the evening. So I'd record them. So I'd be setting up interviews, both for public affairs as well as for a program that was called Fast Forward. That was my original program in that regard. And I began to take a look at that when it came to abundance and prosperity. And Brandon, the thing that really struck me was that I was being compensated by the universe. And I learned that there is a law of exchange in the universe. You cannot fight it. And the way that it works is there is always an exchange, and it may not be in the form you think it should be in, right?
Right. Absolutely. It will come around in some way, shape, or form, being attached to exactly how abundance needs to flow is, having a healthy sense of detachment around everything. I think expectation is fine, but it's when we get overly attached to, all the dirty details of it. And so absolutely agree. It's like, I've seen it time and time again. If what I'm doing, and I believe as in the new world that we're entering into, as we emerge from the COVID chrysalis, as I like to refer to it,
Yeah.
it is more important than ever as to what your intention is with what you're doing. So if you're doing something with the intention to, it's a positive intention, then you can relax regardless of what those results are, knowing that, it's going to manifest. Whatever the results are going to somehow reflect the energy that was put into it. And so, our job a lot of times, I think, is we think we've got to have all the details figured out. Really, the only job any of us have is to manage our vibration, I believe. So to get into vibrational alignment with what you want to see more of. You want more abundance in your life. Well, how are you doing things that are aligned with telling the universe that you are abundant as a creator being? Are you doing things that are retractory? Are you doing things that are expansive? It's like an acorn. If you take it and you put it on a shelf, it's not going to grow into its full potential. If you take it and you put it in the soil with the right sun, with the right water, it grows into this oak tree. That's the abundance that's within us, waiting to flourish when we create the right conditions for it to do so.
Now, you are considered, or I should say, you are actually self-proclaimed, the within influencer, I love playing with words. I don't believe in coincidence. I do, however, believe in coincidences, things that coincide. You're also a leader, a thought leader, DJ, as well as bringing together and putting your own spin on ideas from countless thought leaders from the worlds of science and spirituality, from Lao Tzu and Jesus of Nazareth to Dr. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Bruce Lipton, and Greg Braden, both of those gentlemen we've had on this program, Abraham Hicks, and the late Dr. Wayne Dyer. And you also mix and expand on the wisdom of their work to craft an epic and poetic exploration of what you term the ultimate natural nature of reality. What is the ultimate nature of reality?
Great question. And how do I answer that concisely? I think the easiest way to say, what is the ultimate nature of reality? What is the nature of the situation in which we find ourselves as humans? And I believe the ultimate nature of reality is we are one with the source consciousness that creates and animates all things. And as a result of that truth, everything you perceive is an extension of self in some way, shape, or form. So all is literally one. Act accordingly. If we can start to understand that, science has shown that, uh, basically you look at me and I appear solid, and really the particles that make me up are 99.99999% space. What we call solid is actually vibrations of energy popping in and out of existence. It's all vibrations. It's all a light show, and it's all extensions, just like we know it is all one physically, right? I mean, the particles that make you up, the atoms that make you up, were once a star that lived its young, its childhood, its young adult life, its middle age, old age. It died a fiery death, exploded, its guts strewn outward across the cosmos, and reformed into Richard Dugan at some point. And here it is, the same stuff, right? Basically showing itself in a different way. And that is what is, as above, so below. What's happening physically is what I believe is also happening from the non-physical dimension. And, we weren't created when we came here. We died to the non-physical, and we're born into the physical in a sense. In that moment, we came in with amnesia, and we've forgotten, who and what we are fully. Although some, and more ever increasingly, people are starting to remember, come back together, and realize, like, oh, hold on, I'm one with it all. What's good for you is good for me because you are an extension of me. And so that becomes the real game when you start tapping into the ultimate nature of reality. That everywhere you go, you're there waiting for yourself. There's only one of us in the room. And, all these things are great theoretically. A lot of stuff in the book I support with science and things like that. But at the end of the day, what kind of results does it get when you apply these concepts, right? That's really that's really what tells all. And what I found, when you start applying the idea that all is one, act accordingly, and you do so from a well-intended, I call it the good kind of selfish. If I realize that doing good for you actually benefits me because you are me in disguise, then it's self-serving in a very good way. And so that really becomes a game.
Bandon Beachum is my guest, and we are talking about the Golden Key. The Golden Key is the title of the book. And you can go to goldenkey.gift, G-I-F-T, another one of those new, I'm not even sure, it's like the .com and the net thing.
Yep.
It's brand new, along with .tv and those kinds of things. But it's goldenkey.gift. And you can go there and find out more about what he is doing, the work he's doing, as well as the book. It's also available in Audible format, which is really, really cool. You'll be able to sit there and listen to him present the words that he has put down on paper. Hope that you will do that so you can unlock more abundance. As we talk more with Bandon here on AM 1290 KZSB and this program called Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We're giving you choices, and we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And as we continue here, Bandon, you wanted to add something to what I made a comment in the last segment.
Yeah. Yes. I was trying to find the right spot. I thought you're done. Apologies.
No worries.
So what I'd like to do, the idea with the Golden Key, Modern Alchemy to Unlock Infinite Abundance, is, as I just spoke to, look, as Gandhi said, if you want to find yourself, lose yourself in the service of others.
Mm-hmm.
Why does that hold true? I believe because there are no others. So when I wrote this book, I wrote it as, what do I think would be the most beneficial thing I could do to help our planet transition in this very trying time of our evolution? And that is distilling this, this wisdom that I've spent 25 years of deep exploration, working on and working through myself, in 3 hours to listen to, audiobook, or 100 pages to read. And also I thought, well, what's the most abundant thing I could do? What if I gift the book instead of going the traditional route of traditional publisher? I have decided to allow people, if they have a golden key code, they can get access to the audio or ebook or both. So they can do that with the gift code Tell Me on goldenkey.gift. If you put that in at checkout, then you can get either or both for free.
Oh, fantastic. And Tell Me is the key code for this program. We hope that you will take advantage. Now, is there a space in there? Do I really, we want to be clear here, because you know how web addresses are. 2 words?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. Very good.
Yep.
Very good.
No, all one word. All one word.
Oh, it's all one word. Okay. Tell me is all one word. Okay. So that's the key code. Go to goldenkey.gift and order the book. Go through. When you get to checkout, it'll ask for a promotional code of some sort, and then you'll type in Tell Me, TELLME, no space there. And you'll basically get it all for free. And then you will be able to expand your abundance that will probably transform in many different ways. You know, that's one of the other things too, that whenever anything happens in the way of I might be doing a project for somebody, you know, they've sort of word of mouth and word by contract ask me to produce this, that, or the other thing for X number of dollars, or in exchange for what product or service they might provide. And I still consider that, I would really like to do that or have that, but, you know, I don't have the coinage. Oh, okay. Well, we can do, and then some would say, well, that's called a barter. Well, what do you call whatever you want? That is still prosperity. That is still abundance.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you think people get caught up in the expectations? I know you said there really isn't anything wrong with that, but doesn't that get in the way sometimes? I mean, don't we just need to kind of free our minds? And as the phrase goes, become part of the process. Don't try to control it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Expectation, you know, some people will go as far to say expectation is the enemy. And I don't go that far. I think expectations are good as long as they have a healthy sense of detachment, right? You mentioned Abraham earlier. Abraham says this or something better. So the way I approach everything in my own life, I really, really resonate with that. So it's like, oh, here's a thing, here's a direction, here's an idea of what I would like to call in based off of my limited amount of information at my disposal, and knowing that there is a much bigger narrative playing out than I've been able to account for. And I think of my higher self can see the chessboard from zoomed out many fold, so can see moves way different than I can. And so I'm going to make the best decisions I can with the information I've got from where I'm at with my human. And then we'll, if what I set out to call in is not fully realized, one of the keys in the book is trust the mystery. And I trust the mystery. Oh, okay, this didn't happen. Great, because I really wanted this to happen. And this looked very appealing to me. And I realized it didn't happen because there's something even better aligned for me. And wow, how exciting. And that brings in the childlike wonder, which is such an important part of manifesting anything in your life. Bible, I don't quote the Bible often, but when I do, I love the scripture, lest you become like a child, you can't enter the kingdom of heaven. And that is really the thing, that playful, curious, open-hearted, non-attached, approach is the way. When we're overly attached, when we're overly attached to something, we really push it away. And so, learning this art of manifestation, I think, is the great new art form as we learn how to really manage our own vibrational offerings. And it's nuanced. It's a dance, and it takes some practice, to be sure.
The Golden Key, Modern Alchemy, and it's a modern alchemy to unlock infinite abundance. What form of abundance would you most like to unlock? We'll continue talking about this as we talk with Bandon Beachum here on Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, and we are here to give you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. With New Paradigms for a New World, I'm Richard Dugan, along with Bandon Beachum, and he has a wonderful book that we certainly hope that you will at least check out to unlock more abundance. You can either do it, as he mentioned earlier, in 3 hours or 100 pages. You can do it via Audible, which is fantastic. That's the 3 hours. The Golden Key, it's Modern Alchemy to unlock infinite abundance. And we hope that you will do that. We want to congratulate you folks for listening and watching via either SoundCloud or the podcasts or the broadcast special edition on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. or the video cast on YouTube, the YouTube channel Tell Me Your Story, Richard Dugan. And if you are hearing this or watching this, you are ready to unlock the infinite abundance that is your birthright. And I'll tell you what, Brandon will help you do so by imparting the 8 keys to abundance that basically he has uncovered. He mentioned earlier over 25 years of deep exploration. And so, again, you go to his website and you put in that key code, which is tell me, one word, tell me, in when you are checking out, and get the book. And whether it's the print or Audible, and you also have other things available as well. This style of key that you're using, the imagery, is one of these old style. They call them skeleton keys. Why did you choose that? I like it. No criticism either way or judgment. I think it's a great choice.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's a great and unique question. So I actually share in the book, one of the things I talk about is as you start to tap into more of, sort of your human merges with your higher self, which is more access to more information, more insights, more abundance, right? More wisdom. One of the things that starts to happen is synchronicities tend to unfold more and more often. And these are, I believe a synchronicity is showing you that you're on track. You're on your, highest timeline. You're really, you're doing it well. You're doing it right. You're on the path, right? And so I have a lot of synchronicity in my life. And so, I always take that as a good sign. And I always bring that childlike wonder to it because it's always so fascinating. So, and exciting. And this key is one of those stories. So as I share in the book, I had a dream about the book and the unique way that I'm marketing by gifting it. And then when people play the golden game, which is outlined at the end of the book, which invites them to choose any price to pay for the book, I then will share the abundance that flows into it with all the people playing. And it's just a way to practice what I preach. So I have a whole unique way I've approached this, the distribution of this book. And then I after coming up with the dreaming about the idea, I then went and searched, has anyone used the name Golden Key? I found that there was a guy named Emmett Fox in 1932 wrote a well-known essay called The Golden Key. And when I saw his description, I got chills because it was very in this playful, gamified way. I dare you, just try it and see for yourself, except it's 100 years ago, right? And then I went to my good friend who is a visionary artist, one of the most revered visionary artists in the world. And I went to him and said, look, I've had this dream about a book, and him and I have had some really, great synchronicity unfold together in the past. And I thought of you, of course, to possibly do the artwork on the cover. However, I know your process creating your art is usually, a lengthy one. But, I wanted to reach out and see, would you be open to helping me to create the artwork on the cover of the Golden Key? And after I gave him the whole, spiel on what it would be about and how it came to me in a dream and all this, and he goes, okay, are you done? And I'm like, yep. He goes, okay, now are you ready for my story about it? He's like, I had a dream several months ago where I was I run a communal property in LA called the Mystic Manor. I was at the Mystic Manor, and it was such a powerful dream. I took notes here. Let me read it to you. He got out his dream journal, started telling me he was at the Mystic Manor hunting for the key to everything. And in his dream, he tells me this elaborate tale of hunting for the key to everything at the Mystic Manor. And he was so inspired by the dream. When he woke up, he started working on the image of a key, painting and, first drawing and then going to painting a key. And so when when I came to him months later asking, would you create the cover art for the Golden Key? He said, well, I started it several months ago when I dreamed about it at your house. So that gives you a little insight into how and why I landed on this image. And then, of course, you see within the Golden Key, there's a heart and there's an infinity symbol. So, essentially referencing the infinite love that is who and what we are at our core, I believe.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's really neat when you incorporate this kind of symbolism that in some cases is hiding right there in plain sight. Unless you take the time to really look at what is there, you're going to miss it. And it's really, really a lot of fun to basically contemplate these kinds of things, as we always contemplate here on Tell Me Your Story: New Paradigms for a New World. Here with Bandon Beachum, and he is here to discuss with us, as he has been, the Golden Key. It is modern alchemy to infinite prosperity and abundance, and we hope that you will pick up a copy at goldenkey.gift. And when you go to checkout, you are going to enter into the promo code or the key code field. Tell me, one word, tell me, I just did it. Okay. And boom, voila, there it is. I'm good to go. And then you can then participate in the program of sharing the golden key with others by creating your own golden key phrase, if you will, or term, and so forth and so on. So we hope that you will do that and stay with us here on Tell Me Your Story: New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, and we are here giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And Bandon Beachum is our guest here on Tell Me Your Story. He is trying to help us all to fulfill our dreams. But let me ask you, when I watched the video, the DVD of The Secret, and then I was doing interviews shortly thereafter of its release, one of my guests made the comment, Bandon, that they left something out. And that something that they spoke of was, how can you be sure that what you want to attract to yourself, once you've learned the key, so to speak, is really in your best interest? Is that where our intuition comes in, and where we need to discover our life's purpose of a sort?
Great question. And I think The Secret, got a lot of attention, both, positive and negative, of a lot of controversy around it too, and people questioning, what, so you're telling me I just sit in the corner and think about it and it's going to magically appear? I believe the law of attraction, that the key word in there is action. And
very good.
And so it's, I break this down in the book, actually. So when you're looking at what you attract into your life, there's a lot, there's a lot that's going on there. What sort of vibrational offering are you currently making around what you're calling in? What was your vibrational offering last week, last month, last year, 10 years ago, previous lifetimes? What is your dharmic path? So all these things are like a pot. You're getting thrown into the pot of experience that you're cooking up. And so sometimes you're like, oh, I created that, and I set out to create that. Wow, that felt good. Oh, I set out to create that, and I got something totally different. It's because there's so many layers to what's actually coming out in the manifested product, if you will. So I think the really important thing is, as I stated earlier, is you set the intention with all the information and wisdom that you have and desire, and follow that excitement, follow that intuition, and do your best to go the direction that you think you should. And then know that very often it's going to show up in ways usually different than you imagined, and there may be a different lesson there than you knew you needed to have. We're playing this game with very limited lens. And so, it becomes imperative that you don't get overly attached to any of these expectations, right? And it's just right back to that same thing. I know, a master is someone who embraces whatever shows up, because they know it's exactly what they need to take them to the next greatest and grandest version of themselves. A smooth sea never made for a skilled sailor, and we all came to be skilled sailors. So of course you're setting out to have a smooth journey over the ocean. But guess what? There's other things that are playing in here, past all these past vibrational offerings. What's your dharma? What lessons did you write in pre-coming here? I think it's a dance between sort of pre-planned things versus there's so much wiggle room in between. Like, I believe there's many timelines and potentials for my character, my avatar, Bandon Beachum. There's probably not too many timelines where I was the center of the Los Angeles Lakers, right? Wasn't really a dharmic path for this person. Maybe I could be wrong. Now I'm not, I know I'm never say for sure, but most likely not. I remember the first time I had an intuitive reading. The woman said, I see you in a cold place like Chicago, working in business. My jaw hit the floor. I was planning to move. I was in Atlanta when she gave me this reading. I was planning to move to Chicago after college and work in business for my uncle. And she said, I see a whole nother path in California and music. Year later, I met someone from California. I had formed a band, and here we are many, many years later. So it's potentials, right? There's potential timelines for all of us, and we choose which one we step into with our vibrations. In that moment, I think she was seeing the potential Brandons and what I was my closest choices as I sat in front of her. And so, that's really some insight from my perspective on how it all cooks up and plays out.
And how does this then play into our inner life?
Well, it plays in greatly because there is no out there. Out there is showing up as a reflection of in here.
Mhm.
And it's so important. It's that the one thing you can control is how you proact as opposed to react to situations, how
Mhm.
you deal with it, right? How are you showing up? Most people do something like work in order to have something like money, in order to be something like happy. Well, if you be something like happy, you'll find yourself doing and having things that are a vibrational match to that, because you are a creator, and that which is likened to itself is drawn. So, understanding, hey, I'm the creator and created rolled into one, and I'm doing a dance here with my higher self, and some of the tasks are handled there, some are handled here. My only job, we all have many different paths, many different dharmic paths, but the one thing we have in common, number one thing we can do to affect our experiences is manage our vibration. So if I'm allowing things to throw me off, Mike Tyson said it well. He's like, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And so, you have that plan, right? But know that the universe is probably going to punch you in the face at some point. And then, but what happens over time, you get a little more stable with your non-reactivity, a little more stable, a little more trusting. No matter what comes, I'm an eternal being that's always been and always will be. Change is guaranteed. What else
Mhm.
really matters? If I don't like something, oh, good, because it's one thing for sure, it's going to change, and then knowing on top of that, it's happening for me, not to me. It's an experience that is coming into my field because it's going to make me stronger. They did a test with trees where they took them and they grew them in a perfect environment. You ever heard about this? They
No.
grew these trees in a perfect environment, perfect soil, perfect light, perfect everything. And they were puzzled because they kept falling over. They'd get to a certain stage of growth and they'd fall over and, obviously not thriving. And they finally figured out what it was. You know what it was? They were missing no wind. Wind created the sway, created pressure, created bark to grow as a defense mechanism. It has to. That's what made it strong. Was those things. The just trying thing was actually what gave it its strength.
The
So when
adversity,
you
if you
understand,
will.
yep,
Yeah.
and that's what's happening with us. We came here to get stronger, and that's going to mean more and more situations that test that strength. But just like you go to the gym and you start adding more weights on the barbell, that's kind of the dance. And on the other side of that is you get the benefits of the increased strength and flexibility and health and happiness and wellness that comes with navigating it gracefully.
All right. Now you just said we came here to do this, to deal with the challenges or the adversities, or we'll call it the metaphorical wind or winds. John Denver has a great song about the wind. And talks about nature and Mother Earth, Father Wind, and our Father Sky, if you will, and these different things. And where did so if this is where we came to experience this, where did we come from?
Mm. Well, great question. So I believe, and many others, I think, are having experiences where they're tapping into, as they sort of play with these ideas. What I've found is uh, you get shown more. I mean, I have people around me, and I'm sure you've come across some of these things, but I mean, I'm living with someone currently who in the last few weeks has had full blown connection with cosmic consciousness for the first time in their life. A
Mm.
friend of mine who travels, well-known energy healer. He's on Gwyneth Paltrow's new documentary on Netflix about this. Used to travel with Tony Robbins as his personal energy healer. Came over, worked on my friend. She, started contorting and experiencing things that, she's like, I was merged with everything. So it's one of these things where whether through meditation, whether through some energy work, whether through breath work, whether through plant medicines, people are having more and more connection to something beyond themselves. And they're all coming back, pretty much with the same story. Oh my gosh, I'm one with it all. I am it. It is me. I built this place. I just have amnesia to the fact that I built this place. And so where we go to is where we've always go to and come, when we come and go, we're back to the starting point, which is, merging back into non-physical. There's a great book by called Journey of Souls. Have you heard of it?
Sounds familiar. Mm-hmm.
Journey of Souls. Michael Newton. He also wrote Destiny of Souls. Where
Yes, Life Between Lives. Yes, I've had I've
Yep.
actually been through the hypnosis.
Ah, wow. How was your experience?
It was phenomenal from the standpoint of how I felt and still do to this day feel about my past life, the one right before this one.
Ooh, would you be willing to share?
I've shared it many times on this program. It has to do with me in the pioneer days.
You look like a pioneer. I can so see it.
I'm assuming in this country, and probably maybe the 1800s. Not sure which part of that century. Nonetheless, I had a farm, had a barn, and all this kind of stuff, and was not far from town, probably walking, if not riding distance. And one day, the barn and the field caught fire. I also had a cabin up in the hills. And so I said, well, no big deal. I was probably in advanced years by that century's reckoning, if you will. So
Sure.
I went up to my cabin and I lived there for, I don't know how long. One day, and as I tell this part of it, I don't know why I always get into this other voice. I come outside the cabin onto the porch, and I pull up on a chair, sit down on the chair, put my feet up on the rail, tip my hat back, and I said, "Good life," and I left. I just left.
Wow.
And it was. I was working the land with my hands in Mother Earth. I had a plow and all that stuff, but you still had to plant by hand back then. There were no machines.
Sure.
And I love doing that to this day. I mean, I remember 19 years of age in this lifetime, took an aptitude test. And I never even thought about it at the time. And it came up farmer. I kid you not. I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona, in the heart of suburbia. And that's what it taught me. It told me, based upon the things. And I now have, my wife and I have chickens, and we have a dog and 5 cats. She has a greenhouse. I love doing some planting for her of this, that, and the other thing. Love taking care of keeping the brush down and all that kind of stuff when it's time to do that. There's just something about that just feels so good, let alone digging in the dirt and all that kind of stuff. But when I passed from the last lifetime, I was told, of course, I read both books actually. And of course, there's this period, might stay earthbound for a while. Then there's the resting period. Who knows how long that is, because there's no time on the, in that period, that place. And then you reconnect with the cluster, and then you go through a review of your life, your past life. And then you start going through educational programs, which I thought was fascinating. Like, it wasn't enough that I was down here learning, going to this school, and then I go there and I got to go back. And then of course they're encouraging you to come back. You don't have to, but they're not going to let up probably until you do, but it's still going to be your choice. And of course I did. I came back. And and the one thing I know, a lot of people who complain about hypnosis is that the person doing the therapy, I don't want to call them a hypnotist because that's more the stage thing. No leading questions. It was more along the lines of, what are you experiencing? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you feeling? And so on and so forth. It was just really a very extraordinary experience. I encourage people to do it, whether you believe or not. And I will also share with you this real quickly here, and that is there's another book that I carry with me pretty much everywhere that I go. I could reach back in my doctor's bag and pull it out for you. It's called The Impersonal Life by, now his name escapes me. James Banner, written in like the 30s.
Oh, wow.
And it was given to me when I was 21. And I carry it with me. I had to have it rebound in a spiral binding. And it talks in one of the chapters about reincarnation. Now, this book is written from the perspective of the supreme being, if you will, or God talking to you. And in this chapter, he says, you think that you have lived other lives, that you this, then it goes into the explanation of what you think you believe, blah, blah, blah. He says, but the reality is you are tapping into the lives of my manifestation over time. And so on and so forth. And I got to thinking about that in terms of this whole aspect of, past life regression and so forth. And the whole point, of course, is to tap into your past lives to learn some lessons, find out why you are maybe the way you are, why you're reacting to certain things the way you are. And I started looking at that explanation in Banner's book, In Personal Life. And what I realized was it didn't make any difference. Both would be valid because the point is we're here to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me a little bit of, I reference in my book, the short story, The Egg by Andy Weir. You ever heard of this?
Have not.
Highly recommend it. You can read it in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's short. Someone adapted it into a little, YouTube short movie.
Little short. Yeah, I love those.
And did a really good job with it. And highly recommend checking out The Egg by Andy Weir. And it gives this idea of, this guy, he crosses over, he comes back, it's him and God. And he's like, basically, okay, well, what next? He goes, well, you're going to go back, and the only one in this universe is me and you. And what do you mean? What about all the other people? They're all you. You play every role until you've grown enough to be born. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's just like in the whole universe is an egg, and it's all just you interacting with you until you get to the next level. And that's, you talk about like simulation argument, which I also discuss in the book, and this idea that we're in a simulation that more and more people like Elon Musk sort of subscribe to, and more big names are sort of getting on that bandwagon. And it's like, well, what's the point of a simulation? To learn in an environment that is safe, right? Like if you're going to be a jet pilot, they're going to put you in a simulator before they send you up. And it's, so we're in sort of a testing ground, if you will, to grow for the bigger show that comes with being God as you slide up the scale of experience. But really, the important thing in all that is humility, because it's all source. It's all the one. And there's nothing that's superior to the other. It's all necessary for it to be.
Well, in order to show you the due respect you deserve, we're going to wrap things up here, because I know you're up against a deadline as well. And I'm hoping that in the next minute or so we can do this. I have 3 final questions that I do like to ask my guests, and I will set aside the usual announcement to our listeners and viewers until another time, so we can jump to these questions that you may have answered during the program, but I would like to ask them to you directly. And the first of those 3, before I ask that first one, thank you again for giving us so much time in here on the program, and would love to have you come back again to talk more about this. The first question is, who is Bandon Beachum?
You in another form.
What is it that you hope to or want to achieve through the work that you're doing now?
Raise consciousness and expand perspectives, because we're only as strong as the weakest link, and there's only one of us in the room. So once you understand this, the only game in town is, as Gandhi said, if you want to find yourself, lose yourself in the service of others. Why does it hold true? Because there are no others.
And the final question, what is your life's purpose?
What is my life's purpose? To experience to the fullest and remember the truth of who and what I am and help as many others as possible to do the same.
Bandon Beachum, I thank you again, and I encourage our listeners to go to goldenkey.gift. Type in when you're checking out, after you have placed your order, as it were, type in "tell me," one word, TELLME, into the key code field, and it's free. And then you will have the opportunity to set up your own key code that you can gift to others to go to the same website, goldenkey.gift. And again, thank you so much for joining us here on the program. I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to long.